And downtown Nashville is always like boot stores. And all the doors are open on the businesses on the street, so people are just coming and going. And there's this pigeon on the sidewalk, and as we walk up there, the Oplo comes down and chases this pigeon off the sidewalk, and it flies inside the boot store. And the Oplo right behind it, man. They go inside the boot store, and they make like 3 laps around the boot store, like all up and down the aisles, like all around the store, and then come back out the door and up the street and into a parking garage.
And that there is a snippet from a story that you're getting ready to hear from Jeff Fincher, who's joining us again for another episode of the Falconry Told podcast, brought to you by the fine folks at Marshall Radio Telemetry, the makers of the most carefully engineered and reliable tracking system available. As always, for more information, feel free to go to marshallradio.com for more information. And it was really cool getting a chance to catch back up with Jeff and other friends at his annual squirrel hawking meet that he puts on down in Tennessee. Finally got a chance to make it down there this year, and it was really cool seeing his bird fly along with other friends' birds fly that I don't get to see very often. So it was really cool getting a chance to also take an hour out one evening and just catch back up. And I really wanted to kind of shift the focus on this episode since he's one of our first follow-up guests, and really just kind of go over some of the abatement stories and other squirrel hawking stories that he has, and also hear about his recent trip to Scotland and what else he's been up to lately. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jeff, and I think you guys will really enjoy this episode. There's some funny stuff in it, and it was really cool just getting to hear about some of his latest stuff that he's had going on. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Jeff Fincher. All right, 3 and 2 and 1. I am here at the Tennessee squirrel hawking meet, and I'm here again with Jeff Fincher, and Jeff is actually going to be, I guess, technically our first follow-up guest. I did my first, our first episode with him was last spring?
Yeah,
I think it
so.
was,
yeah.
like last March or something like that. I can't remember at this point.
It's been in the summer, not in hawking season. That's all I remember.
Yeah, okay. I mean, it's been a while. I mean, we've slept since. I mean, your episode, I think, like 13 or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, and we're in like 32 or 33 or something now at this point. It's kind of hard to tell with the sequence of release kind of varying between Israel and I and everything. But anyway, it's good to have you back. I mean,
yeah, good to be back.
Yeah, and like I said, it's we were just talking about kind of what we were going to discuss on this episode and everything, and I think the last time we talked, you had mentioned that you had a lot of really cool stories and stuff, and being as this is the first time we've actually had someone back on in like an official capacity for the second time, I just thought it'd be cool just to kind of focus the episode on just a lot of the stories that you had that you didn't get to share the last time, and especially gearing more towards your abatement experiences and some of your hunting experiences. And first of all, I mean, how have things gone so far this weekend with the meet? I mean, how's everybody done so far?
Yeah, it's going pretty good, man. Squirrels are pretty hard to find right now, so we're working pretty hard.
Yeah.
But we got like 8, 9 squirrels a day total, maybe.
Was it?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to tell. I haven't really got a chance to talk to everybody else, with the other group, but it's I know. Gosh, yesterday we saw like 2 or 3 squirrels the whole day.
Yeah, it was pretty terrible. I mean, like just snowed and everything was denned up, and it was tough. We had fun though.
Yeah. I mean, well, we always have fun.
Yeah, it was a good time out there.
Yeah, but I mean, like today, I thought it was kind of funny. How we had, it was the second place we went. We had 2 dogs on 2 separate opossums. And,
right.
Just a bunch of other weird stuff that happened.
You never know what's going to happen out there, man.
Yeah.
You have 2 dogs 100 yards apart, both on possums, and the bird going the other direction. So
Yeah, and we had a dog get bound in the by a Harris hawk to its face. That happened today too.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it happens occasionally. It is what it is. But yeah. So I guess it would be a good chance to go ahead and just segue into some of the other stories. Not just this meet, of course, but I mean in meets past, and just kind of go into so what some of your favorite recollections are with just your overall hunting experiences and putting on meets and with some of your abatement stuff and everything else. So.
Yeah, man. So the abatement is probably some of the craziest stuff for obvious reasons, just the environment we're in and whatnot, and dealing with the public. One of my favorite jobs that we do is a starling roost abatement, and it's in downtown Nashville, and there's just thousands and thousands of starlings in the trees, and there's also thousands of tourists, and they're just all over the streets. Right. So like, you're down there at night, and of course you look like a crazy person because you got this glove on and vest, and you're screaming and whatnot. But so when the Harris hawks hit these trees, these starlings just erupt out of the trees, and everybody thinks they're bats. So my business partner, who is like about as straight-laced as they come, he's like super honest guy, and he's can't let anybody like be duped, and I'm kind of the clown, and I'm down there one night, and this Harris hawk hits the tree, and all these starlings erupt out of there, and this girl, it's like bachelorette party or something, and they're like, oh my god, are those bats? And I'm like, yeah, those are vampire bats, and they attacked someone's little dog down here last week, so that's why we're down here. And they're all freaking out, and I walk off, and I look back, and my business partner's over there telling them the truth. He can't have them thinking that it's really vampire bats.
Right.
So like I'm constantly messing with people down there, and so it gets pretty crazy, and I have a whole slew of these, like this like homeless army that follows me around, and so they're always trying to help, and I find little ways for them to help, and it's kind of fun. I've got this like crew of homeless people with me, and they're like doing crowd control for me, and
so it's kind of like you're kind of almost the equivalent of like Lawrence Fishburne's character in John Wick, like with the main informant guy that's just
right.
does the carrier pigeons, to get all of his intel on everybody and everything.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we lost a bird down there one night, and I paid this homeless guy like $20 to follow it around all night, watch it. So like I came back the next morning and found him, and he told me we pointed right where the bird was. So.
It works. Whatever works.
You use your resources around you,
Yeah. So. Well, $20 when you think about it, it's a really it's a very small price to pay for what it could be thousands of dollars worth of abatement birds.
Yeah, and I mean just the work you've got into them. I mean, once you find one that'll work in that environment well, you really don't want to lose it.
Right.
So.
It's just a whole lot of time, effort, and energy, kind of like we discussed the last time when we talked. It's just. It's not just about the money, as far as the replacement cost and getting a new bird. I mean, it takes all that time to train them. There's no guarantee they're going to work out how you want, and everything else. So, But, well, I mean, I can imagine with there being as there's never any shortage of like bachelorette party type, party wagon type deals, going all through downtown all the time, and those, what are those things where they like people are on the
pedal tavern?
The pedal tavern.
Yeah, exactly. I hate the pedal tavern. It's the worst. Yeah. I had my bird actually landed on top of the pedal tavern one night, and the guy was like running. It was like hitting the awning, like trying to knock the bird off the top of the pedal tavern. I had to run her and get it. I had a bird land on top of a taxi cab and ride it for like 3 blocks. And I'm like running down the sidewalk, I had a bird fly into a bar and like landed on the bar and like skid it down the bar when it landed.
You gotta. Well, I mean, okay, so pick one of those and just start off and elaborate a little bit more with one of those. Oh man,
so probably like my favorite one actually. We tried I had this like bright idea to try the abatement downtown, which is like the worst thing you could ever do. And so we're sitting there, and all these starlings are flying down the street, and the Oplo is ignoring everything. And then all of a sudden, like a mockingbird flies by, and it like takes off after this mockingbird and goes up the street. Anyway, mockingbird gets away. We find the Oplo. He's sitting up on this little ledge. And downtown Nashville, there's all these like boot stores. Mm-hmm. And all the doors were open on the businesses on the street, so people were just coming and going. And there's this pigeon on the sidewalk, and as we walk up there, the Oplo comes down and chases this pigeon off the sidewalk, and it flies inside the boot store. And the Oplo right behind it, man. They go inside the boot store, and they make like 3 laps around the boot store, like all up and down the aisles, like all around the store, and then come back out the door and up the street and into a parking garage. So anyway, we go, there's a telemetry chase, like trying to find this Oplo, and we finally do, and we go back to the boot store to try to like explain or what happened or whatever, you know. And we go in there, and they're all the employees are watching the security camera footage back, you know, and they're all like laughing and whatever. So yeah, that was kind of one of my favorite times down there. And let me see. Oh, I lost one behind the sign of the Bridgestone Arena. A young Harris Hawk we were training. It was like his first night on the job, and he got over behind the lettering. It's like this lettering that sticks out on the side of the building. It says Bridgestone Arena. It was like, and the bird got behind it and just like got down in there. And my partner called the fire department, and we had the fire department down there, and they got a ladder, and they let me get up there and go up there and get the bird out from behind that. So we bought the fire department like $100 gift card to the grocery store, and then they invited us over for dinner. So we made all these friends at the fire department, you know.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah, you meet a lot of people and have some wild experiences down there.
So I mean, we're pretty much did pretty much most of these events like happen downtown then, or I mean, is there anywhere else for the most part that I'm just assuming that that's going to be your biggest traffic area. I mean, just kind of goes without saying since it's downtown.
Yeah, but it's the craziest thing. It's like, and there's drunk people. Yeah. So like that's like the X factor. You know, it's like what kind of drunk person or like mentally ill homeless people and like these, you know, kind of crazy people.
Sure.
It's been a couple of times I thought we were going to have confrontations.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely where the craziest stuff happens for sure. I was down there one night and I had my glove on, you know, and I'm slapping these trees, and it makes the starlings kind of rustle about in there. And I'm using it to get the Harris Hawks to key on these trees. And there's this group of girls walking up the street, and I'm sitting there and I'm slapping this tree like as hard as I can with my gloved hand. I'm yelling, ho, you know, ho, ho. And I'm like a crazed homeless person, you know. And I see them like out the corner of my eye, and they like cross the street and go around me on the other side of the street, you know, and like come back across. I'm like, yeah, it's like I look like a complete maniac out here right now.
God. Well, I can only imagine. You know, I mean, you're looking at things from their point of view, and you know, I mean,
oh yeah,
you would never know.
I look like a psycho. Yeah, yeah. It's like, what the hell is this guy doing? Yeah. Like slapping a tree.
Well, even if like you know, I was to see you doing that, you know, already knowing you and you know, knowing what you do, it still would be friggin' hilarious to watch. You know?
Yeah.
But I can see where some of those were kind of like would be like short burst kind of things, you know, like a few laps around the store and then it's kind of like done or whatever. But
right.
But you know, like as far as some of those that lasted, you know, more than a night, the one like where you had to recruit, you know, like one of the homeless guys to watch your you know, bird or whatever, like. How exactly do you go about approaching and like recruiting? How did you go about even setting that up?
Oh man, so they find us, and there's this there's this park that they all sleep in, and the park is right in our work area. So they've all kind of come to know us, and so like they kind of like have gathered this following, and they're like waiting on us to show up. So like we show up, and they come over to the truck, and you know they follow us around, and I've had them climbing trees. You know, like I said, watching the bird all night. And sitting there one night, and I was like cutting up tidbits, you know, and like every one of them had to like pull their knife out and show me their knife. And I'm like, well, it's a little, like Rambo knives, you know, like
Crocodile Dundee,
like
you know,
like daggers and stuff. And
that's
I'm like,
not
man,
a knife. This is a knife.
I'm like, man, I've got like my own little street gang here, you know. Yeah, those guys, they just like emerge out of the woodwork too. You know, it just like you turn around and there they are, and they're pretty eager to like help us out. So I guess we're excitement for them.
Well, I mean, especially if you're handing out 20s and stuff.
Yeah.
Like once
they also like us too because they sleep in the park and the starlings like crap all over them all night.
Yeah.
So we're glad that the birds are gone.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that you're probably making friends in that regard too.
Yeah.
I can totally see that.
It's funny too because then they'll start doing like educational programs for me. Because you get asked all the same questions 8 million times a night down there, right?
Right.
Everybody wants to see a bird and whatever.
Right.
So now I've got this like crew of people, and like they answer all the questions.
Yeah.
They're so eager to like answer the questions, you know.
Yeah, someone chimes in, is just like, "Is that an eagle?" And there's like, "No, that's a Harris hawk."
Yeah, they're like, "That's a juvenile Harris hawk." Yeah. They're from the Southwest, like.
God, I can only imagine. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, you know, as far as that would be a very interesting, you know, dynamic, I guess, to have.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, I can see where it would be cool to have a group of people like that as like an ally.
Yeah,
you know, for sure.
Yeah, it's great. Well, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, they kind of have your back.
Yeah.
From like the drunk people, and they're like watching, you know, like, I mean, they know, like, if my bird flies 2 blocks over or something, I'll walk over there, and there's one of those guys like, "Oh, he's sitting up here," you know. Yeah. Like, I mean, they know.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool to have those eyes on the ground. But, you know, most of the stuff that happens down there, man, happens pretty quick. You're about, like, prolonged stories. Ever been, like, losing a bird overnight?
Yeah.
Like, most of the stuff down there, it's, like, it's pretty quick.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, I can imagine. I mean, what else? What else have you had that's been kind of weird or exceptional happen down there? I mean, you've been doing this for a while down there. So.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's really just like, it's fun for me too, because it's a people watching thing for me also, you know.
Yeah.
But, you know, most of the stuff down there is like, most people are pretty oblivious to what's going on. The place that it's also a lot of fun is the airport, the Nashville airport.
Yeah.
That job has been pretty crazy.
Well, and you shared, I think 1 or 2 stories, you know, the last time that we talked about, you know, chasing sparrows through the terminals and stuff. And,
right.
and people having an apamato, like, going over people's heads and stuff
right.
without them even realizing it and everything. But yeah, so as far as, you know, the hunting, just overall, I mean, because you kind of shared, you know, towards, you know, I think it was towards the end of the last episode about the whole, you know, getting, you know, swallowing a splinter and having to go to ER and having, you know.
right.
But I mean, what other kind of stuff did we? I mean, I know we kind of talked about the whole armadillo thing. You know, go ahead and share the kind of the armadillo experience that you.
Oh yeah,
that you
so
had.
I guess some people are here today and they've never seen an armadillo, and they're pretty shocking if you've never been around them. And they were talking about today how they were surprised how well it jumped, and I was just telling them about how I learned my lesson. Growing up in Alabama, we had armadillos everywhere, and I was chasing one night because we used to catch them just because we could, and because you know that's what rednecks do. So, like, hey, well, let's catch armadillos, right?
Yeah.
So I'm chasing one night, and it runs down to the edge of the water, and I'm running down there after, and it gets to the edge of the water, and it stops and it turns, and it just like full on like Michael Jordan launched like right into my crotch. And I mean, just square, direct hit, man. I mean, like, just right in my crotch. And, man, I'm bent over, and, of course, the armadillo's running off. And I was like, man, never again. Like, I'm never chasing one of those things again. It's incredible how much they can jump. But, yeah, we have quite a few around here, and run into them.
Yeah.
Pretty frequently. So.
Well, I mean, did it fold up? Is it jumped, or was it full on splayed out? Like when it
kind of like goes into it kind of goes into like a little ball.
Right,
it like hunches up when it jumps.
Right.
Yeah. So it just like full on like shell in the garage. Yeah. So of course my friend's like holding the flashlight and he's laughing. You know, everybody's laughing. So at least they got a good laugh out of it.
Well, if you saw it happen to you too, you would have laughed. Still.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now I sit back and watch as other people mess with him.
Right. No, that's awesome. I mean,
one of the many critters we encounter up here in the woods. So.
Yeah. Well, and you know, we have people with us on. Well, yesterday, part of our group that, you know, were totally cool with just reaching into stumps and grabbing opossums and stuff out and checking them out and everything too. So
we caught a possum yesterday.
Yeah.
Hand caught one. Put it back and we were done.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's there never is seems like a shortage of interesting things that happen for sure. But
that's some of the fun of squirrel hogging.
Yeah. Well, I mean.
Yeah.
So, what else has landed you in the ER? For example, like.
Oh man, as I get older, a lot more things feel like they're up in the ER. So, I was. Of course, you've seen like we beat on these hollow trees a lot, right? So, I guess something that every squirrel hawker has probably dealt with at some time is beating on these hollow trees. And I'm out there one day, and I'm beating this tree and sitting there and hitting, and and as you look up, like all this stuff falls down off the tree, and it's like hitting you in the face, and you don't want to look up. You don't want to look at it because it's like going in your mouth and your eyes and whatever. And I'm sitting there and I'm beating this tree, and all of a sudden, man, I just go out. Like, I'm just like, it feels like I was out, and I like wake up on the ground, and my head is bleeding, and like I don't know where a bird is, I don't know what's going on, like my glasses are like off of me, and whatever, and it's a big like chunk of the tree had fallen out, and like hit me square on the head. So like that was another time I was like about ended up in the ER in the squirrel hawking. So it's the thing like we always have to look out for now.
Were you concussed at all?
Yeah.
I mean, you had to have been at least a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I like to have a spotter now. That's what I like to hunt with somebody.
Yeah.
And they can be like, oh, look out, and I just like run away from the tree.
Right. Well, I mean, and it's just like I can count. I don't know. I probably at least a dozen times where I almost got pegged in the head by marbles, over the last
yeah.
Yeah. You ever had to eat?
It's usually somebody else that hit with the marble, so it's usually pretty good. It's rare to get one like bounced directly back at me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so for the people that aren't super familiar with squirrel hawking, just go into the whole slingshot thing and marbles and why you use that and need it.
Yeah, so I mean, I like to do it to like keep the squirrels moving. I mean, obviously, like the hawks get more interested and more excited if something's running and moving. So I mean, I'm just constantly shooting marbles at squirrels, man, to make them move and keep the hawk engaged. I find it super helpful. It's probably like I feel almost like helpless if I don't have it sometimes. Like the squirrel's just sitting up there and not moving. So like I use it a lot to keep stuff moving, but it does also create a little bit of a ricochet hazard.
Yeah.
So, and I know a lot of people like hunting in like little woodlots around like neighborhoods. Like you'd have to be pretty careful with that.
Yeah.
If you're like raining pellets down. You
right.
Like, hear
right.
one hit the hood of someone's car somewhere over in the neighborhood.
Yeah, or someone's window in their house.
Yeah.
I'm sure that could probably get pretty expensive to have to replace.
So I don't know that I recommend it for everyone, but
right.
out here deep in the woods, it doesn't much matter. So.
Yeah, fair enough. But any interesting this experience or stories with that? Accidentally. Has that happened to you before?
No. I'm not saying anyway. Even it did. Like,
well, I mean, I wouldn't exactly ask you
like,
to
like
give
George
the exact
Rogers.
location.
George Rogers at 12:46. No.
Yeah, just give the exact
Sorry
address
about
of where
that.
it happened. But,
Sorry about your car.
Just leave a note on the windshield.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so. Any other interesting stuff? I kind of want to segue a little bit into some of your other recent stuff that you've done, but I know that there's got to be at least one other memory that you can pull out that's probably at least kind of stands out a little bit somewhere.
And yeah, it's a funny thing with that because it's like almost every chase becomes like my favorite chase. It's like the next chase is like my favorite one.
How about this? How about one that incorporated like your dog? Because I mean you like to use your Gozer, your Decker and
right,
stuff,
right.
So I mean what was one of the most memorable experiences that you can think of that your dog helped you out?
Oh man, well it was something that just happened the other day. It was kind of fun. So we were chasing this squirrel, and as usual, it's just like chaos, and I'm screaming and yelling and running. And the bird had actually pulled the squirrel out of the tree and dropped it, and it was running on the ground, and it jumped up on the tree, and it just always ends up me being hurt. Like the squirrel jumps on the side of the tree, and I just throw my hand out to try to knock it off the side of the tree to knock it back on the ground, and I jammed my thumb really bad, but like right as I was like hitting the thing, Gozer launches up the tree, like runs up the side of the tree and just snatches this squirrel right off the tree, like right in front of me. And
how high off the ground was it?
I don't know. She was probably like, it's probably like 5-6 feet.
Wow.
Yeah, she's a little dog.
Yeah.
She just ran and jumped and ran up the side of the tree and grabbed it, And then of course immediately like the bird comes down and like snatches it right out of her mouth,
Well, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that happened just the other day. It's just like always. It's kind of always fun. Like I said, every time I go, it seems like, the coolest thing just happened, you
Right,
know,
right.
every chase. But yeah, I mean, over the years, like all the, you know, the dog just, you know, watching the determination of the dog. I love like for the dog to just really work and dig and end up, you know, actually pulling a squirrel out or something, you know,
Yeah.
and creating an opportunity. So,
Well,
yeah.
I mean, where we're at, we don't really hunt with dogs very much. So it's cool for me to be able to, you know, it's another thing that I don't get to see very often.
Right.
You know, so it's really neat, you know, for me to be able to see, you know, a dog that actually is really good working dog. I mean, not one that's just kind of
Just
following
out
around,
there.
just kind of whatever.
Right.
But, you know, it's something that, it's another thing like I just don't get to see very often. So it was neat seeing, you know, them, you know, look up in the trees, bark, and just kind of, you know, focus and do what they're supposed to be doing. And especially, you know, not very many of us even squirrel hawk that much.
Right.
You know? So it's something that I know Jared and I are talking about, you know, kind of revisiting a little bit, you know, maybe this next season and stuff. But you know, like I said, it's neat for me to be able to see it because once again, I just don't see it very often. So
Yeah.
it's very cool.
And it's cool. I mean, like, of course, at the meet, it can be chaotic because, like, you know, everybody brings their dog.
Yeah.
And then you end up with, like, 4 or 5 dogs in the field, which, honestly, for, like, squirrel hawking, it's overkill.
Yeah,
It's
for
too
sure.
much. It becomes
Yeah,
a
yeah.
hindrance,
Yeah.
really, at a point, you know. I mean, of course,
Yes.
it's fun for the meet because we're all...
Oh, especially when one dog's getting, you know, under another pile with a possum, and another dog's under another pile with another possum.
Right.
Or
And if a squirrel hits
armadillo
if a squirrel hits the ground, you know, then the hawk can't even get to it. You know, it's just covered up with dogs.
Right.
So I know there's like 4 or 5 dogs. I mean, like a squirrel doesn't have a chance if it hits the ground, you know.
Right.
So that happened like a few meets back. I had my bird was out and like plucked a squirrel out top of the tree, and it comes like helicoptering down, right? And there was like a pack of like 7 like just rabid dogs, and they're like all underneath, and they're on the ground just in this like ball, you know, they're all looking up, and the hawk is coming down, and she gets like probably 6-7 feet off the ground, and she's like, nope. Forget this, like, and just drops the squirrel into the dogs and like flies over into a tree. And of course, the dogs, I mean, I don't think the squirrel hit the ground,
I bet not.
you know. So I'm like, yeah, it's a little overkill,
Yeah.
but that's kind of how the meet is, though, you know. And you want people to get out and be able to run their dogs with the other dogs and other people's birds and whatnot. So yeah, it's a little crazy at the meet sometimes. It's a little more low key when it's just like me and the bird and the dog, you know.
Oh, sure. I mean,
But
sure.
yeah, I mean, what are you seeing with the dogs? I mean, did you see anything cool or that surprised you or
no,
anything?
I mean, I thought it was really cool. Like I said, I mean, just the whole thing was new for me. I mean, kind of. So I mean, like I've seen some deckers work before, like maybe one other time that I can remember, and it was very brief. You know, I mean, but like getting to see it, you know, 2 days in a row. I mean, I can definitely see where, you know, kind of like we talked about the last time, you know, we did this. You know, there's definitely advantages to having a good working dog for sure. You know, because I mean, it was nice being able to see a dog, you know, actually, you know, spot a tree, like spot a squirrel and actually mark the tree and, you know, look up and like there was a couple times. I think there was one time that I know for a fact one of the times was Gozer like spotting, you know, before I even noticed the squirrel even being up there, and you know, it's just looked over and saw the dog, you know, just staring straight up the top of the tree, and it's like, okay, you know. So I mean, yeah, because you're so used to, for the most part, you know, the focus on a lot of working dogs, as far as, you know, our sport especially, is mostly like pointers and you know, even some of the sight hounds and stuff. But, you know, I mean, it's definitely its own little, you know, really cool niche, you know, like with this type of, you know, working relationship, you know.
Right.
So, you know, it was, as far as like the one cool instance, the last, like whenever your bird was following real well at the very end of, like, close to today, and you know, like the dogs were both, you know, moving with people from, you know, tree to tree, and it was cool because you could tell the dogs weren't really just following the people, like they knew what was going on.
Oh, yeah.
And they were going around, you know, even before. That's what I thought honestly was the most neat.
Right.
Was just, you know, even with a squirrel like super high up in a tree and everything, like they knew that it was there even before, you know, we knew it was.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're used to seeing that with pointers and, like, you know, dogs that smell and point and whatever, but, you know, it's neat seeing that with a different breed of dog, with,
Right, and like a different environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So,
Yeah, it's cool. It's it's like one thing I really love about them is you weren't with us yesterday, but we were hunting in a lot of cedar trees, and when the squirrels are moving through the cedars, it's super hard to keep up with them because it's just thick. It's like hard to see.
Yeah.
So the dog is really great for like helping me keep up with the squirrel and that too.
Yeah.
Because like you'll see like she gets out in front.
Well, no, I do remember that yesterday though. That it was towards like kind of middle of yesterday. I do remember that.
Okay.
Because it was when we were moving through that patch of trees, and we had that one squirrel that was running in the middle of those cedars that you were just talking about, I think, and it was kind of it was that thicker cluster.
Right.
No, I do remember that.
Right. Okay. Yeah. These days are running together.
No. Because it took me a minute too to be like, okay, well, no, I think I actually remember that.
Yeah. But this is super help because I mean, like I'm trying to push through any briars or brush or get over like deadfall, and I can't keep up. I mean, I know the dog is marking it the whole way. Right. So I'm gonna know where it went. So.
Sure.
So so they're super helpful in that way too.
No, that's awesome though, man. I mean, like I said, if that was what down the road, if it ended up being what I kind of wanted to shift my focus to, I could totally see the advantage to having one for sure with you, especially if you're hunting by yourself. Yeah. I mean, this would be a very hard thing to do by yourself. For sure.
Yeah. I mean, I've gotten to where like, it's almost like I don't enjoy it as much by myself.
I mean, I think that we all though really appreciate company in the field anyway. Yeah. Because I mean, there's only so much fun and joy that you get without like going solo, and like if you have a really good flight or have a really good experience, and your bird does something really awesome, like you look over and you're like, hey, just that's right, I'm by myself.
All by myself. No one saw this cool flight.
And unless you're just got 20 GoPro batteries or whatever, and even then there's not guaranteed to get the right angle. So
I mean, it happened to me like a couple of weeks ago. I was hunting by myself, and I was hitting this stump, and the squirrel bailed out, and I hit the ground and ran over, and the dog immediately started putting up a tree, and it got like, I'm sitting there the whole time and thinking like, where's the bird, and the squirrel goes up the tree like probably 10, 15 feet, and the bird, I mean, just like in Mach 6, just comes into my view over my head, and like reaches out and swipes the squirrel off the tree, like, and he'll just see it so vividly. It was just a perfect angle, and and grabs this squirrel and then goes like spinning to the ground with it, and they tumble around. I'm just like, oh man, like I'm the only one that saw that, like that was so cool. It was just like everything worked perfect, like I flushed the squirrel, the dog put it up the tree, but bird hit it at just the right time. It's just like perfect setup. Yeah. And and then it's just me. So but I'm the longer I do this, the more I enjoy hunting with other people, man.
Yeah, for sure. No, I can totally see that.
All right, just wanted to thank everyone for tuning in yet again for another week of the Falconry Told podcast, and appreciate you all being here again with us. And also wanted to take a moment to thank Marshall Radio Telemetry for supporting us and helping us to bring more content to you guys. And I also want to take a moment to remind everyone that we have another giveaway going, and that's for the Steve Tate hood that Steve has graciously decided to donate to one of our lucky supporters. So if you want to be entered automatically for that drawing, just go to our website at falconrytold.com and get one of the Cosmic Falcon patches or Afterburner sticker packs between now and the end of the month, and the winner will be announced March 1st via Facebook, Instagram, and or email. So best of luck to everyone who's entered, and we're going to turn it right back over to Jeff. So here we go.
Yeah, well, I mean, you just went to the Texas Hawking, like the Eagle Meet deal down there, didn't you?
Yeah.
How was that?
It was awesome, man. They put on a great meet. Unfortunately, I wasn't very, very long. I basically flew in just to speak. But I did get a couple of days out in the field, man. It was a great meet. Lubbock's a great place. Yeah. Just full of game. Yeah. And I mean, and if I couldn't hawk squirrels, I mean, I'd be hawking jacks.
Oh, for sure.
It's like, yeah, absolutely.
No, I love hawking jacks too. I mean, it's a lot of fun, and it's something else you almost have to prepare for like a marathon almost. You know,
Right.
You know, you got a wind sprint after. As soon as the bird leaves your fist or whatever, you're just running right after it too. But yeah, no, I mean, a couple of our buddies went down there for that too, and you know, like I said, they said it was really cool and everything. I just, you know, didn't know if there's any particular cool stuff that you got into while you were down there, or, you know, I mean, I know that area is just loaded with jacks.
Yeah, so. It is loaded with jacks, and I didn't do a lot. I mean, I went out and flew with some long wings and got to see some duck hawking, which is something I don't get to see a ton of every year, you know. Yeah. So it's cool to go see that. I usually try to go out and see something that I can't see. Yeah. Around here, you know. But yeah, I took my birds there last year and flew jacks, and took my squirrel birds out there, and of course, you know, they were trying to like ride the fist, and you know, they don't know what's going on. But yeah, I did end up nailing a couple of jacks last year with my birds. But yeah, it's cool. So I really like that Lubbock area, and it is eat up with jacks for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it was really disappointing. You know, like Kansas normally was, you know, in years past has always been pretty loaded too, like around, you know, where we were at in Dodge City and, you know, Garden City and stuff. And when we went, you know, that week of the NAFA meeting, so unfortunately, it was just the numbers were really down this past year. It was a big bummer.
It is like something I feel blessed not to have to deal with. You know, these like cyclic numbers and stuff that people have, and like finding game. And it's crazy as I go out west, and my friends are like, "Oh, this looks like a good jack field," and I'm like, "This looks like every field I've been driving past for the past 500 miles, man. Like, how can you tell?" You know, and it's funny, you just got to get over and walk it and see. But like, you know, with squirrels, it's like, man, if there's trees, there can be one tree, there's going to be a squirrel in it probably. You know, and I just don't deal with that that problem of like population fluctuations or really trying to find game. You know, my biggest problem with finding game is just like if they're not moving. Right. You know, it's getting them moving. So I'm lucky in that regard, I guess. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, and you were fortunate enough just to be able to recently you know, go to Scotland and stuff too, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh man, that was great.
Well, yeah, go into that some. I haven't really got much of a chance to talk to you since you went and everything. Like as far as how are things up there? How different is it? What's the landscape like? I mean, going to all that stuff.
Yeah, man. So yeah, we were in Scotland. We were like out on the moor, and it's just this, you know, vast like mountainous, hilly area. But it's so weird because it's like you're in the mountains, but the ground is just like a sponge. Everything's soft, like you're walking on a sponge, you know. Everything's just kind of wet, and the weather is like challenging. And those guys, like, I know, like lots of times there's this like divide in like UK falconry and like North American falconry, you know.
I know there's a lot of very strong, like stronger than normal opinions at times.
Yes. There are a lot of opinions. But man, those guys were like some of the. I mean, they were really high level falconers, man. Yeah. And it's some really good falconry for sure, you know, and they're hunting blue hares or mountain hares as they call them. And yeah, man, it's just wind is blowing all the time, and it's raining all the time, and most of the time it's super foggy. And I mean, these guys are out there in it. It's like 40, 50 mile an hour winds, man. Jeez. And you know, and they're just up and down these mountains, and yeah, I mean, it was super cool, man. I mean, the first day I was out there, I was like, I had 10 days. I was just like, I don't know, like, how I'm gonna make it, you know. But man, by the end of the 10 days, like, I did not want to come home. Like, we were having a blast. Yeah, it's just really great flights, man. Really long flights to get up on top of the mountains, and the flushers go down in the bottom. They have dogs that point the hares too, and you know, you flush hares way down in the valley, and they launch the birds from up on the top of the hill, and it's these really nice long flights.
And what specific like what were all the birds they were using?
So we were flying. So they had golden eagles and faru tails, which is a nice little bird to stir the pot on the internet with. Yeah. Which I did a little bit. I went a little overboard with it. I was definitely like, you know, kind of picking some fights. Yeah, and then we were flying a Benelli's eagle also.
Oh, cool.
We were there. Yeah, and then we had some Goshawks too. And we flew some Goshawks also.
Just straight. European or?
Yeah, man, I'm not a goshawk guy.
Yeah.
They were goshawks, and I don't know. I'm not sure. They were white.
Yeah. That's well, I mean, we don't really need to talk more about them anyway. I mean, I have to live in a predominantly goshawk world most of the time. And I get sick of them also.
Right.
So.
I'll show you a picture and you tell me what they were. Yeah, it was funny, man. I mean, we were flying those, but it was like the hairs of the goshawks were almost too easy. So like some of the guys were like, "Oh, I don't want to fly the hairs with the goshawk because it's like almost too easy."
Yeah.
So they would go. Instead, they would hike way up the mountain and launch a Faru tail from a kilometer away on a hare. But it was so funny, that Faru tail, man. It was like I was taking a bunch of pictures and I got this photo sequence of the thing would just like it would start eating before it even had control of the hare. So this photo sequence of this Faru tail riding on this hare's back, and he's just plucking fur. Like he's already trying to eat the thing. He doesn't even have it, stopped yet. So, yeah. And in all the pictures of the hares, there's a few that are really bloody. And those are the ones the Faru tail calls. So, yeah, the typical ferruginous trait, I guess.
Jeez.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun, man. But it's tough hawking, and those guys are top notch. Yeah. So I've got to calm down when I'm making fun of the European falconry.
Do we ever really have to really calm down with any of that?
Yeah, no, I'm not going to.
I was going to say, I think I know you at least well enough to now know there's just not ever going to be any change in that. I don't think.
Not at all.
I mean, we're all pretty hopeless in that regard, I think. But yeah, so I mean, as far as the size difference, out of curiosity, with the hares, I mean, are they roughly about the same size as our jackrabbits?
Yeah, they're about the size of a jackrabbit.
Yeah.
They have shorter ears.
Yeah.
In the jack, but otherwise, I'd say size-wise, they're very similar to a jackrabbit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I mean, is there anything else noteworthy as far as just what you saw around there? Like, how was the rest of the scenery and where you guys were staying as far as the town?
It was super cool. So we were on this giant, basically this giant red grouse preserve.
Okay.
Well, I'll say it's a preserve. It was they do hunts on it. The owner does. So the red grouse is very sought after game bird there. It's just their native game bird. And so the people that watch over the place, you had to be super respectful and careful about what you did, because anything they thought may disturb the red grouse would get you in trouble. So it's you can't dare disturb the red grouse,
Oh, jeez.
But yeah, anyway, man, it was cool. We were way out there, everything's run off the generator, and we were eating everything we caught, which was fun experience, because you had to catch game to have the meal that you wanted.
Interesting.
And yeah, and we were able to shoot a couple of roe deer too.
Oh, nice.
To also sustain us while we were out there. So yeah, it was fun, man.
Yeah, that would have been. I don't. I'm kind of with you though. I don't know how I would have made it. I mean, just from just from that last little tidbit of info that you shared.
It was so wet and cold. I would have eaten anything at the end of the day too.
Yeah, I went out there with boxes of Swiss cake rolls and Spam or something. I don't know. Just anything and. Just anything at all.
I did. And I bought these chips. They have these terrible chips. They're called prawn cocktails, or shrimp cocktail flavored chips.
Oh my god!
And they're the most disgusting things I've ever in my life. So yeah, I sampled some of the local junk food.
Yeah,
and it's pretty rough.
Yeah, I just threw up in my mouth a little bit.
Yeah, I'd rather eat hares and roe deer any day.
Well, I mean, from the pictures I saw, though, I mean, obviously somebody there knew what they were doing with the meal prep, with everything, because I mean the stuff looked good that you were eating, though.
Oh yeah, no, they were great, man. And people basically took turns cooking.
Yeah.
So everybody would just take turns. A different person would cook every night. So I had to contribute too. And
well, I mean, then we would have probably just died.
Yeah.
If I had to be in that rotation.
They made it through one night. Well, I introduced them to pear salad. I don't know. Do you know what pear salad is?
I've heard of it, but go ahead and share. Just elaborate.
So, all my friends make fun of me about this. So it's a very old Southern thing, and it's just a canned pear with some mayonnaise on it and sharp cheddar cheese on top of it.
Okay.
Yeah, right, exactly. But I don't know, it works. It's delicious. So I introduced that to Europe, basically. So that was my kind of my dessert that night. Like I fed them pear salad. It was received pretty well, actually.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
'Cause little did they know that you weren't actually doing them a real service.
I don't know. I felt kind of vindicated, you know. I'm like, yes, like these people like it too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No. Well, that's to each their own. I mean, if you brought joy to their lives for those few days with pear salad, then
I entertained them anyway. I mean, between my accent and my weird culinary taste. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm like we were talking about earlier too. I've heard that pretty much in some of the northern parts of Scotland, you almost need a translator, even though they speak English anyway.
Oh yeah, I mean, the gamekeepers and the locals there, it was tough. We met some locals out one day, and they were ferreting with long dogs, and it was crazy windy that day. And it was the real problem was it was real foggy. The clouds were on the mountaintops, and you really couldn't fly because of that. So I kind of spent most of the day out with those guys ferreting with the long dogs, and I don't know what they were saying, but I had a lot of fun watching the ferrets and the dogs work. So yeah, that was cool, and it's kind of the traditional style of hunting over there. You know, it goes way back. Yeah. So it was fun to participate in that. So
yeah, there's some guys that I've kind of gotten to know a little bit that have been from over there. Yeah, even some of the Irish I found can be a little hard at times to understand.
Right.
But especially the Scottish guys, man. There's this one musician that I know, and boy, we gave him such a hard time when we were around him for about a week. But it was the same kind of deal. I mean, we were just I have no idea what you're saying right now, at all.
Yeah.
It's like watching a completely illegible version of Shrek. You know, it's the whole time. It's crazy, but well, I mean, that's cool, man. I mean, Scotland and Ireland are definitely on my bucket list for sure. There's still a lot of places I want to see, and so I'm not really sure if that's the way I'd want to necessarily see it for that long. Right. I'd be totally down to spend maybe a couple days, having to, because I could go. Theoretically, I know I could go without eating for maybe a couple days if I had to. If they're like, well, you contribute or you don't eat, I'd be like, okay, well, cool, I'll sit this one out, guys. And, we're heading back in a couple days anyway or whatever. And, I mean, it is what it is, I guess. But
yeah, man. The food, the hair is great. I mean, that mountain hair tastes it really good.
I'd be down to eat it. There's no way we'd all die if I had to prep it.
If you had to prep it
right now, literally, we would all catch a terrible case of dysentery or something. We'd all die right there on the Scottish Highlands or steppes or whatever. It's just the moors or whatever the proper term. The moor. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It was
my proper terminology.
The place is weird. It's something out of Aesop's fable. I don't know. It's this little fairyland. You expect little gnomes to pop out. You go through. It's little creeks and I was evergreen trees and
see that's awesome because literally I'm a fantasy nut and everything.
Yeah,
so I mean the scenery is totally up my alley.
Yeah,
I would totally love that. It's just if I had to, I'd be the first to admit to you I'm inept in some of those areas, and I would totally, if I had to fend for myself and cook for myself from game that I just caught out there, then I would probably just die. I would really enjoy myself for a little bit, but then I'd die. So it's awesome though that you got to have that experience and we were with other people though that were capable of not letting you die.
Yeah. No, we were totally prepared. I mean, this is what they did, and the cool thing about it was growing up in the South, I was always in hunting clubs. Mm-hmm. So you'd have a camp house that you went to, and people would come there and spend the weekend or the week, and it's kind of the same thing. You're eating wild game, and everybody's hanging out, and everybody's pitching in and doing the chores, and this was very much a hunting club feel. It's a bunch of people out there, and everybody's helping, and you're eating what you kill, and it was a cool trip, man. It's very it reminded me of that old hunting club kind of experience. So yeah,
very cool. Very cool. Well, I mean, that's awesome, man. I mean, I'm glad that I got a chance to catch up with you a little bit as far as that goes. But I mean, and I don't even think we've really had a chance to really talk much about, you know, your Africa, you know, like your last Africa trip either. But,
Right, yeah.
But I mean, I enjoyed a lot of the pictures that, you know, saw from that and everything too. But anyway, I mean, that we'll probably have to have save that for another time also.
Yeah,
So we're
yeah.
actually almost at an hour, believe it or not, already. But so next thing on the list is, you know, the skydiving deal, which I'm really kind of working myself up to be. You know, I'm excited about it. I'm kind of mentally working myself up because that's another bucket list thing too. But so you said probably March or April for that, right?
Yeah, usually kick up in like end of March, April, something like that, and it's kind of my summer thing. So yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. You should come down and let me throw you out of an airplane.
Oh yeah, it's in the plans. It's in the plans.
Yeah.
Yeah. By then, hopefully, I'll still have a. By then, hopefully, you'll still have a Kestrel to fly or something too, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah,
and
my Kestrel will be rocking and rolling too.
Yeah. So we maybe we can talk to Jared and we can organize our own little Tennessee mini micro meet or something.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know, or whatever. That'd be cool.
It would
to
be
kinda
cool.
Maybe do too, and then
That's right.
And then we could all go throw ourselves out of airplanes afterwards.
Yeah,
So.
exactly. We can have the European Kestrel versus the American Kestrel. We can have the showdown. Be like
Something tells me we might win.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's gonna turn out just like the first time that the Americans fought the British. So
Wow. And on that note, well, awesome, man. I think it's definitely a good note to go ahead and end this particular one.
All
on.
right.
Get
I'm just getting warmed up, man.
Yeah, get the last shots fired.
I'm going to offend someone at
No,
some
I
point
know,
here.
I know.
So
I mean,
I'm warming up to it.
I know. Well, I mean, it's not that hard to do these days,
No,
as you know, as well as
Absolutely
I do.
not.
So, all right, man. Well, it's been fun, and thank you for the invitation to come down and hang out.
Yeah, thanks for
a couple
coming,
days, and I'm going to try and make it an annual thing for sure.
Absolutely.
So,
Welcome anytime.
all right, man. Well, we'll talk again soon.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, bud.
Yep.